Imagine being an ordinary young woman and suddenly finding yourself in a position to save your entire nation. This is the incredible story of Esther, one of the most courageous and inspiring figures in the Bible. In this video, we'll explore how her bravery and faith not only elevated her to the throne, but also saved her people from annihilation. If you've ever felt challenged by difficult situations or doubted your ability to make a difference, Esther's story will bring renewed hope and strength to your spiritual life. Stay with us to uncover the secrets behind this amazing story and how you can apply these lessons in your life. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any transformative content. The story of Esther takes place in the Persian Empire during the reign of King Ahasuerus, Xerxes I, who ruled from 486 to 465 BC. At that time, the Persian Empire was a vast territory stretching from India to Ethiopia, encompassing many different peoples and cultures. The cultural and political context of the empire was marked by great diversity and complexity, with widely varying laws and customs. The Jews lived as a minority in the empire after being exiled from their homeland, Israel. They continuously faced challenges to maintain their traditions and faith in an often hostile environment. Despite this, many Jews managed to attain positions of influence and respect in the communities where they lived. The Persian court was a center of power and intrigue, where political decisions were often influenced by the king's advisors and favorites. Life at court was full of luxury, but also dangers, especially for those who fell out of favor with the king or his counselors. Esther, a young Jewish woman, was chosen to be queen after the deposition of Queen Vashti, who had disobeyed the king. Esther's selection was remarkable because she did not initially reveal her Jewish identity, placing her in a unique position to influence the events that would unfold. The Book of Esther highlights feasts and banquets as central elements of life in the Persian court. These events were important occasions for decision-making and displaying power and wealth. It was at one such banquet that Queen Vashti was deposed, paving the way for Esther's rise. The presence of Mordecai, Esther's cousin and guardian, in the royal court is also significant. Mordecai was a righteous and God-fearing man who played a crucial role in protecting Esther and defending the Jewish people. His influence on Esther was vital to her courage and determination. Understanding the historical and cultural context of the Persian Empire helps us appreciate the magnitude of Esther's story. She not only navigated the complexities of life at court, but also used her position of power to protect and save her people, demonstrating how faith and courage can transform adverse situations. Esther's selection as queen wasn't a random event, but a divine plan that began to unfold with the deposition of Queen Vashti. When King Ahasuerus sought a new queen, he ordered the most beautiful young women in the empire to be brought to the palace. Among them was Esther, a young Jewish woman raised by her cousin Mordecai. Esther stood out among all the other young women for her beauty and grace. However, her true strength lay in her faith and character. She found favor with the eunuch in charge of the harem, who gave her special treatment and the best care, preparing her to meet the king. When Esther was presented to King Ahasuerus, he was immediately captivated by her more than any other young woman. The king placed the royal crown on Esther and made her queen in Vashti's place. This moment marked the beginning of her influence in the Persian court. Though Esther had become queen, Mordecai advised her to keep her Jewish identity a secret. This strategy would be crucial for the unfolding of future events. Mordecai's wisdom and guidance were essential for Esther to navigate the dangers of the Persian court. Esther's rise to the throne was a clear example of how God can use seemingly ordinary circumstances to achieve his purposes. Her selection as queen paved the way for the divine intervention that would save the Jewish people from an existential threat. Esther's new position as queen also brought challenges. She had to balance her new identity as queen with her true identity as a Jew. This internal conflict and the need to maintain her faith, while fulfilling her royal duties, tested her courage and faith. Esther's story teaches us that, regardless of circumstances, God has a plan for each of us. Her selection as queen was a crucial step in God's greater plan to protect and preserve his people. Esther's courage in accepting her role and responsibility inspires us to trust in God and act in faith, even in the most difficult situations. Haman's plot against the Jews began with his rise to power as the chief advisor to King Ahasuerus. Haman was an Agagite, a descendant of the traditional enemies of the Jews, and his hatred for Mordecai and his people ran deep. Mordecai's refusal to bow to Haman further fueled his anger. Driven by hatred, Haman convinced King Ahasuerus to issue a decree to exterminate all the Jews in the empire on a single date. He presented the idea to the king as a way to protect the empire from a people he claimed were disloyal and dangerous. The king, unaware of the true nature of Haman's conspiracy, authorized the decree. The royal decree was published in all the provinces of the empire, causing great distress among the Jews. When Mordecai learned of the plan, he dressed in sackcloth and ashes as a sign of mourning and despair. He sent a message to Esther, urging her to intercede with the king to save their people. The situation was extremely dangerous for Esther. Even as queen, she could not approach the king without being summoned, on pain of death. However, Mordecai reminded her that perhaps she had become queen precisely for this critical moment. Haman's conspiracy reveals the depth of human hatred and wickedness, but it also sets the stage for the manifestation of courage and faith. Esther knew that her action or inaction could determine the fate of her entire people. This moment of crisis required a bold decision. Esther's response to the crisis was a brilliant example of leadership and courage. She decided to risk her life to save her people, showing that true leadership involves sacrifice and determination. Her decision to approach the king, despite the danger, was an act of extraordinary faith and bravery. Haman's conspiracy and Esther's reaction teach us about the importance of standing up against injustice and evil. Even in the face of great danger, courage and faith can change the course of history. Esther's decision to confront Haman's threat is a powerful lesson that justice and the protection of the innocent must be pursued, regardless of personal cost. Faced with a terrible threat looming over her people, Esther made a courageous and strategic decision. She called on Mordecai and all the Jews in Susa to fast for 3 days and nights, without eating or drinking. This act of fasting was a way to seek divine help and intervention. The fasting of Esther and her people demonstrates the depth of their faith and dependence on God. They acknowledged that the situation was beyond human control and that they needed a miracle. This collective fast united the Jews in a common cause, strengthening their resolve and courage. After the 3 days of fasting, Esther prepared to approach the king, even without an invitation. She dressed in her royal robes, symbolizing her dignity and position, but also her readiness to face any consequence. This moment of preparation was crucial for her mission. By entering the king's presence, Esther risked her life, as Persian law decreed that anyone who approached the king without being summoned could be executed. However, the king extended his golden scepter to Esther, signaling his acceptance. This was a moment of great relief and an answer to the prayer and fasting. Esther did not immediately reveal her petition to the king. Instead, she invited the king and Haman to a banquet. This first banquet was a strategy to create a favorable environment and set the stage for her true request. Esther's wisdom in handling the situation shows her intelligence and prudence. At the second banquet, Esther finally revealed her true identity and Haman's plot. She pleaded with the king for the lives of her people, explaining how Haman's decree threatened to exterminate the Jews. Her courage in exposing the truth was an act of great bravery and faith. Esther's courage and the fasting of her people teach us about the power of prayer, fasting, and bold action. Esther trusted in God and took daring steps to save her people. Her story inspires us to act with faith and determination in times of crisis, seeking divine guidance and the courage to face seemingly insurmountable challenges. The first banquet Esther organized was a moment of tension and strategy. She knew she needed to approach the matter with care and wisdom. By inviting only the king and Haman, she created an intimate and focused setting where she could present her petition without interruptions or external interference. During the banquet, King Ahasuerus asked Esther what her desire was, promising to grant her up to half the kingdom. However, Esther postponed her request, inviting the king and Haman to a second banquet the following day. This delay increased curiosity and tension, building anticipation for the revelation. On the night between the two banquets, the king had a sleepless night and asked for the royal records to be read to him. It was then that he discovered Mordecai had saved his life by revealing a conspiracy, but had never been rewarded. This providential event set the stage for the upcoming turn of events. At the second banquet, Esther finally made her petition to the king. With courage, she exposed Haman's conspiracy and pleaded for the life of her people. The king, shocked and furious upon learning that his queen was Jewish and that Haman had plotted to destroy her people, stormed out into the palace garden in a rage. Haman, realizing he was in grave danger, begged Esther for his life. However, when the king returned and saw Haman fallen on the couch where Esther was reclining, he interpreted this as an attack on the queen. This sealed Haman's fate. The king ordered that Haman be hanged on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. This dramatic reversal demonstrated divine justice and Esther's wisdom in her approach. Haman's downfall marked the beginning of the salvation of the Jews. The banquet and Esther's revelation illustrate the importance of strategy, patience, and courage. Her ability to navigate the complex intrigues of the Persian court and reveal the truth at the right moment was crucial for the positive outcome of the story. This episode teaches us the importance of trusting in God and acting with wisdom and courage in critical situations. After Haman's downfall, the challenge was not entirely resolved. The royal decree to exterminate the Jews was still in effect, as Persian laws could not be revoked. Esther and Mordecai had to find a solution to save their people. Esther once again approached the king, this time without fear, and pleaded for a new decree to reverse the situation. The king granted Mordecai the authority to issue a new decree in the king's name, allowing the Jews to defend themselves against any attack. Mordecai wrote a decree permitting the Jews in all the provinces of the empire to gather and defend themselves against their enemies. This decree was swiftly sent out by messengers, giving the Jews time to prepare. On the appointed day for the massacre, the Jews, armed and ready, successfully defended themselves from their aggressors. The royal support and Mordecai's effective organization ensured that the Jews not only survived, but also triumphed over those who sought to destroy them. The victory of the Jews was celebrated with joy and festivities. This day of salvation was established as the festival of Purim, a time of joy, gift-giving, and helping the needy, celebrated by Jews around the world to this day. Mordecai was elevated to a position of great power and influence in the Persian Empire, second only to the king. His wisdom and leadership, along with Esther's courage, were crucial for the survival and prosperity of the Jewish people. The victory of the Jewish people is a testament to the power of faith, courage, and unity. The story of Esther and Mordecai demonstrates how determined action, guided by faith in God, can transform desperate situations into victories. This story continues to inspire generations to trust in divine providence and act with courage in defense of justice and truth. The story of Esther is a powerful reminder that God can use anyone, regardless of their background or position, to accomplish great things. Esther, an orphaned exile, became a queen and the savior of her people through her faith and courage. The importance of faith and prayer is central to Esther's story. Before taking any action, she and her people fasted and prayed, seeking divine direction and intervention. This teaches us to place our trust in God and seek His guidance in times of crisis. Esther's courage in facing great personal danger to save her people is a lesson in leadership and sacrifice. She risked her life to intercede with the king, showing that true leadership often involves great risks and sacrifices. Esther's wisdom and patience in dealing with the complicated situation at the Persian court teach us the importance of strategy and timing. Her careful and deliberate approach ensured that her petition was heard and granted at the right moment. The unity and solidarity of the Jewish people were crucial to their survival. When faced with the threat of extermination, they united in fasting and prayer, strengthening each other. This unity was key to their victory and is an example of how community and cooperation are vital in times of crisis. Mordecai's story highlights the importance of integrity and justice. He refused to bow to Haman on principle, even knowing the risks. His integrity and justice were ultimately rewarded, showing that maintaining our values is essential, regardless of the circumstances. The festival of Purim, established to commemorate the salvation of the Jews, is a reminder of the importance of celebrating victories and divine providence in our lives. Celebration and gratitude are ways to acknowledge and honor the blessings and miracles we receive. The story of Esther is an endless source of inspiration and teachings. It encourages us to trust in God, act with courage and wisdom, and value unity and solidarity. May we learn from her example and apply these lessons in our daily lives.